Oh, I'm laughing because this is the magic of live television. I was ready to rant. And it was not quite my turn. But now it's my turn. Erica Renee Davis, Front Porch Fantasy. Rant of the week. College football playoff. Did the committee get it right? As a drunk, obnoxious Georgia alum and fan, I have nothing to worry about. My only qualm with the committee right now is whether Georgia should have been 2 or 3, because, in my estimation, Ohio State hasn't played anybody this year, but that's neither here nor there. But between Bama, Miami, Notre Dame, yay or nay, who should have been in, who should have been out? Notre Dame, I can say, and my guest today and I will fight about this, did the absolute wrong thing for sitting out the bowl season. So the committee got it wrong, but definitely Notre Dame got it wrong. On the basketball NBA front, the Clippers. If you don't know me, I am a diehard Clipper fan, and I must say that for the first time in 15 years or so, I'm finally denouncing my fandom. What they did to CP3 is completely unexcusable. Like, honestly, did he hit somebody? Did he do something frisky with somebody's wife or girlfriend? I cannot in any world understand why you would do a legend that way in his retirement season. And then finally, how are my fantasy football teams doing? Well, the truth will come out once we start talking to the expert, Front Porch Fantasy. Now, before we jump into the expert, Lindsay Rhodes is here with us today. Now, you might know Lindsay, and if you don't know, you're going to get to know her today, and you absolutely should know her. She is the bee's knees when it comes to reporting, hosting, journalism. She covered the NFL for nearly 2 decades as a network host, as a reporter, as a podcaster, and now as the director of consumer media and engagement for Sumer Sports. She was recently named SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio's Fantasy Dirt and DirecTV's Fantasy Zone channel. Let me take a step back. She was recently the host of SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio's Fantasy Dirt and DirecTV's Fantasy Zone channel. She spent 12 years at the NFL Network, where she hosted their flagship show, NFL Total Access. I remember those days. She's also covered the Olympics for NBC, the NHL for Versus, and college football for CBS. Basically, all the big dogs. Lindsay has been there. Google her name. She's a graduate of USC, and she started her career as a sports anchor for local stations on the West Coast, West Side, Best Side. From there, she joined Fox Sports Net in 2001, where she covered the LA professional and college teams for 7 years. She's based right here in Southern California. Please give a round of applause for the one and only Lindsay Rhodes. Lindsay, are you there with us?
Hello.
Listen, let's first talk about how I completely butchered some of your bio. And girl, you are the wrong person whose bio should be butchered, because you are literally can give a masterclass on what it's like to be a host, journalist, writer, business owner, entrepreneur. So forgive me, because I am bowing down to you, honey.
Oh, stop it. I'm so excited to get to spend some time with you. Had so much fun meeting you at the Fantasy Football Expo.
Yes.
We got to speak on a panel together. And so I have been newly sort of like shown how brilliant you are, and I'm excited to have a chance to have a conversation with you a little bit more here.
Well, so let's first talk about how you even got started into fantasy football. Let the people know.
So I was working for, you said I worked for NFL Network for like about 12 years, something like that. And at the beginning of my time at NFL Network, I was coming off a stint in regional television here in Los Angeles, and they did not have an NFL team. So I covered all of the teams in Los Angeles or Southern California, and not San Diego. So, so that was everything.
Is that shade to San Diego, Lindsay? Is that
no, actually, but weirdly, it was like the Southern California Fox Sports. That's what it was. It was Fox Sports West, but it actually did not dip into San Diego. That was its own market. So anyway, and I wanted to clarify that because they did have an NFL team, and if that was part of our market, I would have covered them. So, and gotcha. the big part of the story is that I was covering everything: hockey, baseball, college football, all of the things except for NFL. So I was coming off a stint of time where that was not really my primary expertise. And then I was jumping into the NFL Network, where that was all I was going to talk about. So it was very much a like cram to get up to speed on this specific set of data and team and names and all that kind of stuff. And so one of the things that I did first was one of my coworkers, Michael Fabiano, became a very good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you want to join our, talent fantasy league? And I was like, absolutely. Because as you know, fantasy is the best way to really quickly get up to speed on who's good, who's being used now, like what changed from that week to this week. And so when you're really in the weeds with all of those names, I mean, in that particular case, it just helped me learn the league faster, like get up to speed in that way.
You said something really interesting, that you went from covering all the sports to focusing on the NFL. And I think in a world where we are taught to pivot and taught to lean into those pivots, like what was that like? Because that's a pretty big ask. That's a pretty big, shift in comfort, I'm sure.
It was a little scary at the time because I was like, well, I don't know how I'm going to cover the NFL. I'm not an expert at the NFL. And this is very clearly hyperly focused at people who pay a lot of attention to the NFL.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit scary. And actually, when NFL Network first came to Los Angeles, I was covering USC football at the time. And so was it like having conversations on a regular basis with people who are really knee deep in the football world. And they were like, you should go there. Like I covered USC football specifically at that time during the Pete Carroll days. And so it was a lot of high level football being played. And then they were going to the draft. And so I was meeting people there and they were like, football, this is like what you're passionate about. Like you should go there. This is a good opportunity for you. And I was very like, a little bit scared of that opportunity because I was like, I don't know the NFL in a way that like that move doesn't make sense to me. Now in retrospect, I would tell everybody like, no, you can, especially if you're in this particular business.
Yes.
The way I see my job is I have learned how to learn over the years. I've learned how to study, right? Like I am a professional studier. I can get up to speed on a new subject real quick because that's what you have to do in your role as a host or a reporter. And actually, as it turned out, my job at Fox Sports West really prepared me for that, getting up to speed on a brand new topic really fast, because I was going from doing a hockey post game one day to a baseball, pre and post game to like a USC football news of the day to like a UCLA basketball sideline, like all of the different roles and then all of the different teams. And so what I learned there was twofold. One, quick, how to get up to speed fast so that I could do my job competently there. But also there was no pretending like I had been there for the rest of the week. You're coming in as a journalist and you are now competing with everyone who does cover this team as a beat, but they all know you haven't been there.
Yes.
So it's not, I was on TV yesterday at an Angel game. I was there. I wasn't here. So to a degree, you're not pulling the wool over anyone's eyes. B, you also have to figure out a way to get up to speed and get up to speed quickly. And so that helped me with that pivot. And then now I'm the opposite. Now I'm like, people come to me with other sports and I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think I want to relearn anything now.
Listen, you kind of stiff-armed me when I was like, let's talk college football. And I was like, but then I saw your Twitter and you had some college football takes over the weekend. I'm like, Liz is ready to talk some college football, which we're going to do. But I also want to talk about Sumer Sports. Talk about Sumer Sports, how that, came to be, who's on your team. Let everyone out there know what it is and why they need to be knee deep into Sumer Sports.
Oh, girl. So, well, I mean, a lot of your audience, I would imagine, is looking for betting advice, fantasy advice. These are very specifically two groups of people that are looking for edges, right? So we are your people at Sumer Sports because we kind of focus on a lot of the advanced data, roster building strategies, like from an NFL standpoint, not necessarily for fantasy, although, a lot of it is sort of similar,
right?
But it's a lot of evaluation and data and kind of, it was an interesting another pivot for me in my career to go from not just being, but like what I've always been was just a straightforward journalist / host, asking questions, talking about subject matters. And now I work for a company where that is part of my job. I still do a podcast once a week. And so we try to drive those conversations and like there's a broadcasting element to it, but there's also an off-camera element to the job that I find really fascinating that's allowing me to flex different muscles in terms of consulting on some of the different platforms that we're building out and saying, okay, from a consumer standpoint, which I have been for a very long time, how would I use this? How could this be better? How do I think this will, land in the consumer space, and how can we make this as good as possible so that it checks the boxes of what people are looking for and needing. So it's very much like a data and scouting company. It's a lot of tech people that come from the tech world and not football, like come from like, Meta and Google and like all of these different like Cisco and whatever. I'm talking to people who are like brilliant AI people. And then there's a whole scouting arm of the company, which is like Mike Mayock and John Idzik and some former general managers and some career-long scouts. We have over 700 years of scouting football experience. And then we have a few people here that kind of like put it all together and try and take what everyone is saying and all of the different tools that the tech people are building out based on the recommendations of the football people, and then trying to kind of tell people what it all means. And that's been so fun for me because as a journalist, the thing that really interested me was always, well, I mean, as a journalist, you're always scanning when you are cramming to get up to speed. You're like, what is not known?
Yes.
What are some holes in the information space that I can help fill by going and asking this player this question or whatever? And I think that that's the way my brain has always worked. And so it's a really interesting landing spot for me because it allows me to say like, what is not being met in the market? What are the holes in this sense? And how can, the things that like are the things that we think to be true, really true? Like, let's dig through the data and really get to the bottom of it. And in the last few years, Erica, we've thrown away a lot of old thoughts about football.
That's what I was going to say, because even as a betting analyst and a betting journalist, sometimes we do, not sometimes, all the time, we do so much research. Like we can get so knee deep in the stats going back to 1970 or, tailoring it to 2020, whatever. Like there's so many different ways that you can tailor the stats to make the data say whatever it is that you want it to say. So I like what you said about, we've thrown away some of, we've had to like move away from that because sometimes it's necessary to say, okay, well, this doesn't work anymore, or maybe it does, but it's not as important as this new wealth of data that we have found.
Well, and we've seen that play out. So in one example that we've seen play out a lot this year, and it's been a topic for the last few years, but this year, I think it's really starting to become a conversation that we're having every single week. And that is because it's to a degree settled inside buildings, like, and that is going for it on fourth down. We're seeing a lot of the go for it on fourth down. You're seeing a lot of the situational, why you don't kick to go up 8, but instead you go, or like, you go for 2, like those types of situations are very probability based and rooted in historical data and then probabilities that the average fan on their couch are not thinking about. Like,
doesn't even know.
The field position, if you go for it on fourth here, or you'll, even if you don't make it, you have them so far backed up into their end zone that the probability of them making it out and scoring is null or is limited. And that's factored in. And now you're going to take over with better field position with which to start your next drive, and your chances of scoring go up by this much probability. Like there's so much data that has formed those types of decision-making processes that these coaches are. That's why you're seeing so many of them do it. It's not that they're being gutsy or aggressive or anything like that. It's that they've been presented with a lot of data that has convinced them that this long-held belief that they have held, like, I mean, I grew up watching football games where fourth down was when you punted, kicked a field goal, or only went for it if you were like, we ran out of time. We gotta pick up an extra. Like nobody just went for it. I mean, every once in a while, like you'd sneak it on 4th and inches or something like that. But now it's Like if you're at 4th and 2 and you're on the right side of the field,
Right.
more often than not, you're going
You
to
go for it.
see guys going for it. And so that's what I mean when I say what they did was they asked themselves, this thing that we've always done, is that the best thing to do? And
Yes.
the answer for a lot of these coaches was no. And so now they've pivoted and reframed their approach. And that's just one of the things, like counting stats that you see all over your television.
Yeah.
Like the yards, you know what I mean? Like
it's
if
overwhelming.
Well, but it's just like passing yards, for instance, can tell you the story of
Right.
who's the best. But it doesn't necessarily. Aaron Rodgers had a ton of passing yards last year. And the reason why was because his team was always losing
Yes.
in passing situations.
Yeah.
And it was partially his fault that they were
Yes.
always losing.
Yes.
So like that didn't tell the story of who's best. So we found other metrics that better tell that story.
Okay, so tell me your story about how you juggle everything from a fantasy perspective. And
Cool.
when you and I met at FS, not GA, FS,
Expo.
yeah, at the Expo.
I did the same thing earlier. I was like, what FS thing was it?
Right. When you and I met, I talked, very openly about, okay, so my lane has been betting, and there's a lot of crossover between betting and fantasy sports, obviously. And I've played fantasy sports off and on for the past 8 to 10 years or so. And I'm in a couple of leagues right now, and I could not tell you how I'm doing because I'm so embarrassed that I'm not winning. But with all that being said, how do you juggle the information from preseason to, OTAs to the NFL draft? Like, how far does it go back for you, or how soon does the studying for what you are preparing to do for the next season begin? And then once the season begins, how do you juggle the trades, the wire moves, the information? Because you got a life outside of fantasy.
I know. It doesn't seem like it sometimes, though. I can't tell you how frequently on a Tuesday night I'm like settled into bed and then I go, oh my God, I have to do waivers. And I have 11 managed leagues that are season long. And then a few, I want to say 3 or 4, maybe best ball leagues that actually require some management. So when I sit down to do waivers, I'm like, I'll be back in an hour. Like, I mean, there's just it's not like a quick, like scan it, put one in or anything like that. So that part's overwhelming. And I actually don't like that part as much. And I don't track my teams on Sundays because the bad news about having that many leagues, as a lot of people who are watching who do the same thing probably already know, is that I have everyone and I'm going up against all of my players in various leagues. So there's no rooting interest. Like that part of the fun is kind of gone for me. But the part that I love drafting. Okay. And I love the off season. Like in general, having nothing to do with fantasy, I legitimately love the off season. And that's one of the things that we do at Sumer that makes me a good fit for that, is like all of those roster building. Who should they take in the draft? Where do they get the value? What should they do in free agency? Like, here's the number of resources they have. How should they maximize those resources? Putting that puzzle together, I think, is fascinating. I love having those conversations. I love scraping all of the data and trying to figure that out. And so because I'm so into the off-season storylines, I think I am prepared for when the draft comes, when fantasy drafts come around. Like, you kind of know, because I spent this part of the offseason saying they should go draft a running back. I know that 7th round running back actually has a chance to see the field because there's a reason that I wanted them to draft that running back. So there are a lot of different things that kind of set myself up, I think, for knowing how the new pieces kind of plug in. And just, I come into that process with my own set of opinions on how it's likely to play out.
Well, speaking of drafting and fantasy, right now, the projected number 1 draft pick, a heavy favorite, is Indiana's Fernando Mendoza. Any preliminary thoughts on who you think should draft him? And then for more context, Oregon's Dante Moore is the second on the odds board to be the first draft pick in next year's draft. So if you had to place Mendoza or Dante Moore, Hoosier, Duck, anywhere next year, where would you put them?
Well, so I'm looking at the okay, wait, that's the power rankings. Hold on, I'm going to pull up the actual draft order at this moment. And because what I think is really interesting about this draft is how many teams need quarterbacks. Like, I mean, and that's not That's not anomalous. It's not like we're like, oh my gosh, that never happens. But like there are a lot, and there are a few that don't necessarily need quarterbacks, but like the Rams are a really interesting one in that department because you've got Matthew Stafford who's playing as well as he's ever played,
Ever.
maybe, right?
Fountain of youth, Matthew.
And yet they have 2 first-round picks this
Yeah.
year. So if they're positioned in such a way where they can grab a quarterback, I actually think that this might be an interesting year for them to grab a quarterback. And the best time to make these types of moves is when you're not desperate to make these types of moves. And so I'm really curious about the season that Matthew Stafford has had and what that has potentially done to what their offseason plan. Maybe they came into the season with one offseason plan, and then have they pivoted off of that, or is it still fine? Do they still look for a quarterback? Are we like, hey, let's let this ride until the wheels fall off? I'm really fascinated with what's going to happen there. Because whoever the Rams plug in at quarterback to be the heir apparent is set up. Like that is, I mean, good gosh. Like that's like
offensively, hey, it's Christmas every day.
I mean, absolutely. Like talk about quarterback being set up to succeed because the environment is good. And I mean, there's so many conversations we've had in the last few years about like the retread quarterbacks and stuff. And why are they? Well, it's because they were terrible environments,
right?
Terrible teams, and then had to dig themselves out of that. That's very hard for a quarterback to succeed in a bad environment. We've even seen that this year in a few cases with quarterbacks that we know are good. You know, like looking at Justin Herbert play last night. It's like, so you've got drops happening. You have a mess of the offensive line trying to protect him. I mean, it's just, you're still seeing the ways in which he's good.
Right.
But we're not seeing what it could be. There's no doubt. So, but going back to your question, so you've got the Giants with the 1 pick right now. They are not going to draft a quarterback. And so that becomes an interesting. Vegas needs a quarterback. Tennessee does not. Cleveland.
Wait. You said Tennessee does not?
No, I mean, they just drafted Cam Ward.
Cam, I know, but okay. But I hear what you're saying, but I have my thoughts on Cam. But yes,
here's the thing. If you use a number 1 overall pick on a quarterback and then you turn around the next year, like
you're saying a lot.
Failure process.
Right, exactly.
Failure process. If you're taking a quarterback number 1 overall, you are putting him on a bad team, period. End of story.
Yeah.
Like, unless you've traded into that pick, that quarterback is, you better be buckled up. It's going to be a roller coaster. So my expectations for Cam Ward this year were nothing. Like the only thing that he could have done this year was exceed my expectation because he outplayed the situation that he was in. Turns out that that's not what happened.
No, not at all.
So much that needs to be upgraded in Tennessee that we cannot evaluate him. And I think we run the risk of, if we attempt to evaluate him, I mean, they can in the building to a degree, right? Like they know which parts he's being set up to fail in and like, oh, well, but you did this right. Like they're going to be much better at evaluating this than we are on the outside.
Right.
But I just think that you got to give that time. You got to, first of all, a rookie is always going to, it's tough. It's tough to transition to the NFL, period. Now, if you don't have great pass catchers that are making up for whatever deficiencies that you have, if you don't have an offensive line that's giving you all day, if you don't have running backs in the backfield that are going to force defenses out of the box, like
he's got nothing.
I mean, force defenses to come into the box, right? Backwards. Yeah, he doesn't. So we just got to hit pause on Cam Ward, put a few more pieces around him in this year's draft, upgrade that. Now let's see what he has. But you can't move off of Cam Ward for several years because you are so invested. This has to work.
Oh, because you're invested. Yeah. I mean, yes. Energy, money, all the things. Branding from a marketing perspective. Yes. I'm like, my mind is racing. I'm like, oh, let's just talk NFL draft. And I have so many other fantasy questions I have to ask you. Okay. Let me pivot for one moment.
Okay.
A newbie. Pivot. So someone, say it again.
Pivot was my friend.
Okay, I'm gonna pivot. Someone who is a newbie in the fantasy space.
Yeah.
Newbie could mean a year into it. It could mean the first year. It could mean someone like me who has played off and on, but not religiously. What is your best advice for diving into it and wanting to be competitive, because I am very competitive. And let me tell you, those, like, my first few weeks in both of the leagues that I'm in, I was like, oh, this is easy. I'm doing well, like whatever. But then when I had to start managing like my players and doing the waiver wire, I was like, wait a second, like it's not as easy as I thought. So what would be your advice to someone who wants to have a competitive chance to win their league, but they're not used to all the action that has to happen during the week for you to be successful?
Yeah, it's the action during the week sucks. I mean,
Tell me
it
about
really is like you have to do it because that's how you, I mean, anybody who plays for even a minute understands, like, I've got 6 guys that are my best guys and they're all on my bench. Like, the number of IR spots that I've literally filled. Like, I don't have IR spots anymore. And so they have to stay on my bench unless I want to drop them and be done with it. Like, this has been that kind of year, but it also to a degree feels like they all are. So, I would say the waiver wire is vitally important, and you have to kind of try to stay locked into that. Now, that can be complicated. And so one of the things that I suggest if you are new and you don't really know where to start with that is a lot of apps have the trending section. This is just like a cheat sheet, right? They're trending for a reason.
Yes.
And if you figure from a probability standpoint that most people that are playing fantasy on your platform are probably paying attention a little bit more plugged in than you are if you are a newbie, then just consider that cheating off of someone else's test,
like
right?
that.
So go ahead, and if Chris Rodriguez is trending because he's the only running back that is potentially startable that's available on waivers, then put in your waiver claim for that guy. Go look at that. But then my other thing is you have to stream defenses. Like, you just have to. And this is something that I think that people who are new don't think about, and they go draft whatever the next best defense is when they're drafting is that's available. They draft it, they plug it in, and they set it and forget it. Defense is girl.
I mean, you know what it is though, Lindsay? Again, because I don't like to lose. And when I saw that I had to really put in work to win, I was like, I'm just gonna let this ride. We're just gonna see what happens. Okay, but yes.
The one thing I beg you to do from a waiver standpoint every week is rotate your defenses. Because what you will notice, and this is actually this applies to anyone who wants to say defenses win championships and all that kind of stuff, or they're like, if a head coach stands at a podium, weirdly, Vrabel did this, and now I'm a little bit shocked that he's doing so well, so I'm going to have to eat these words. But like if a head coach stands there and they're like, we got to get back to running the ball and playing good defense. And I'm like, literally, those things don't win games. Like, they just don't. So, and they don't in fantasy because they don't. Like, a good defense, if you're the Houston Texans, and we saw this, they can force an offense into some situations, but they're not going to consistently score high in fantasy because it's reliant on the quarterback making the bad throw. It's reliant on the quarterback making the mistake. Defenses are reactionary.
Right.
So even the best one is reacting to whatever the offense does, which is why you want to play the defense that's playing the worst offense. So you want to target who are the Texans? I mean, not Texans. Who are the Titans playing this week? Later in the season, who are the Vikings playing this week? Right, like that's been all over the map.
Right.
So you want to pick a defense that is playing the worst possible offense, because the volatility in terms of defense and the points that they score in fantasy, the best defenses are not the best defenses by the end of the year. I mean, sometimes like the Broncos, you might, there's a couple that will consistently put up good production. For the most part, though, there's going to be so much up and down, and you're going to see a random team put up 20 points, and it's because they played a team that just coughs the ball up or allows a lot of sacks.
And that's really interesting that you say that, because like the Texans, I mean, have been, at least for the second half of the second half of the season, been consistently phenomenal on defense. And so from like a completely strictly football perspective, analytically, if you don't know fantasy and you don't know how the defensive moves play into the fantasy strategy, you would think, oh, Texans defense. But that is not the case. And I'm very happy that you clear that up, because
and they might end up at the end of the year, if you're just looking at leaders, they might end up as the number one defense, but you haven't maximized the points that you could get out of the position
every week.
because you're not looking for an average. You're looking for the team that has the possibility. Like if you rotate defenses, you might not ever have the number one defense, but you might have the number 1 or 2 or 3 defense that week. And then
That
if you
week.
switch it, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you're limiting your sample because the best defense is going to play a really good offense. Like if
Yeah.
your defense is set up to play, I'm trying to think of who this team would even, if you're going to play the Rams,
No, the
right?
Rams, yeah, perfect
The
example.
chances are better than not that you're not going to have much of an opportunity
Mm-mm.
to get a ton of sacks and get a ton of turnovers. Now it might happen every once in a while, like the Seahawks
Yeah,
can do that to them.
I know,
But
right?
in general, that's not going to happen. You have a better option somewhere.
Okay, so the waiver wire and defense, another third bullet for us newbies, us folks who like to not look at their roster once they start losing. What's another piece of advice?
Trying to think of what else it would be if they don't like to look at their rosters.
I'm embarrassed. Like our girlfriend, our mutual colleague Amber messaged me. She was like, someone messaged me on the chat and was like, who's this Erica chick? I'm facing her this weekend. She hasn't made any moves. And I want to be like, girl, tell her that Erica's buried her head in the sand. But I'm gonna do better next season. I'm gonna do better next season.
Girl, you're so funny. Yeah. So I would say that the one thing that and I know I already said this, but like the waivers are the way that you get around the mistakes that you make in drafts. So like you might feel really strongly about a player and then
Okay.
it might not pan out. I'm trying to think of players that I did draft feeling strongly about them that have not, because that's definitely the case, or have gotten hurt. I
Yes.
drafted in a couple of leagues. I would go grab there's like a dead zone in the draft almost always every year. One you're into like, I don't love any of these people. And this is also where the people who are hurt and have question marks attached fall. So I got like Godwin, in that range. I took like
Ah.
Brandon Ayuk at a certain point in time and was like, I don't like any of these people. So I'm going to take Brandon Ayuk and I'm just going to cross my fingers that he's going to come back. And if he comes back, I might have a wide receiver 1 at a certain point in the season. Joe Mixon, another one.
Okay.
You've fallen far enough now. And I'm going to roll the dice there. Now, unfortunately, in a lot of these cases, you're kind of stuck waiting because you drafted them waiting for them to come back. And so you don't ever know when exactly to give up. But the good news is a lot of those guys are sitting on your IR and so not taking up a bench spot. But some of those types of like roll the dice picks that you make in drafts, some are going to become more. Brian Thomas Jr. is somebody that I cannot play. And that became fairly obvious. Most of the season you haven't been able to play him. And that became fairly obvious early in the season. Put him on your bench. I'm not saying to draft him, but now you need somebody else up here. And maybe the guy that you drafted to take a swing on that was a rookie, Kyle Williams, was a guy that I drafted
Okay.
for the Patriots that just hasn't panned out. So like that would have been one where I could have been like, they're not using him. He's a rookie that I thought might be in the mix to be used. They're actually not using him that much. So I'm going to drop him and plug in someone else that I didn't think they were going to use that is actually getting used. Like you just have to like continuously upgrade the people on your bench so that you have options to plug in.
So for every newbie out there watching, listening, following along, essentially you need to quit your day job and if
you just need to pay attention.
Quit your day job.
But I get it. It's like, but I will say this, like, I think, fantasy, the thing I love about fantasy is that it can be as serious or as not serious as you want it to be. Like whatever that experience is, if you want to have a team, so you have somebody to root for on Sundays and you don't really care if you're winning or losing, but like that part's fun, or you want to draft with your friends and it's a social thing. And you're not actually going to go to sumersports.com and sift through the data filters, right? Like, maybe that's not what you want to do, but you can if you want to. And then you can feel very like, I found this guy. That's the thing I love is I love the guys that I draft in the late rounds when they pan out. Like Kyle Monangai this year for the Bears, I'm just like, ding, ding, ding. I had him on like every bench when I drafted.
That's smart though.
But that was actually an example of they struggled to run the ball last year. running backs are hard because it's hard to tell if it's the offensive problem or if it's the running back
If it's the
talent
running back's
problem.
age, anything. Yeah. And yeah.
But I was like, they had issues. Maybe they could upgrade that position. There might be a role here for that. And so those are the guys that I'm always drafting, or like the ones that are in offenses that feel like that was Bucky Irving. That's how those of us who found Bucky Irving in drafts found him because Rachaad White's advanced numbers did not pop. They were terrible from a rushing standpoint. He was very, very good in terms of his receiving metrics, but he was, in terms of rushing efficiency, he was near the bottom of the league. And so you're like, okay, ding, ding. They might be looking to upgrade someone who can get it more efficient from a rushing standpoint. And so, I mean, that's turned out to be a lot of things that we weren't anticipating, but we thought that the opportunity might be there. And it was good enough to fill.
Okay. So I think I'm better equipped for next season. And that's okay. I listen, I got your number on speed dial. So you're going to definitely be my coach when but I will say this. I did play a couple of futures leagues where it's betting. So we took the over unders for, quarterbacks, like passing yards, the over unders for tight ends and their receiving yards. We did futures on Heisman, comeback player of the year. Because again, in the betting space, but still a fantasy draft aspect to it. And girl, I'm like, I'm killing this, but I got to do better at my fantasy. Now, let's talk about who we are fading and fanning out over when it comes to, for me on the betting side, for you on the fantasy side, or from a strictly football perspective. I'm just going to throw out some names and I want you to tell me, are you fading this player? Meaning, we're on a stiff arm, or are we into this player? Again, doesn't have to be from a fantasy perspective. It could just be from a football perspective and or from a ceiling of potential perspective. And my first one is Shedeur Sanders. Fading or fanning out over Shedeur.
Can I say no words about Shedeur? I'm just kidding. I will answer this question. I just feel like this is a lose-lose, man.
It is.
Like this, like I have never seen someone become so volatile.
Very polarizing. Such a polarizing figure. I love it though.
And I will say this, I don't necessarily know if that's his fault, right? Like it's just people latched onto him. The way that he was talked about in the draft, I think, was just it became a whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not, I mean, unless I'm desperate, I am not trying to play him in fantasy the rest of the way. That's not something I'm interested in. I think he's very interesting from a real world football standpoint. Because so the Browns, I told you where they're drafting very high. They're going to be in a position to draft another quarterback. This period of time is so important to Shedeur Sanders because they need to know at the end whether or not he's their guy. I think he's playing to either be their starter or he's playing himself out of a job in Cleveland. I think those are the two scenarios. And the reason why is Dylan Gabriel is a guy they drafted in the 3rd round.
Right.
They are invested in that. And it's possible they move off of that, but I'm not sure that they saw enough to be like, absolutely not done, Right. Maybe they didn't see enough to say that's our starter of the future, but their evaluation of Shedeur, he now needs to disprove because they had an evaluation. That's true for everybody. Like
totally.
A 4th round pick's going to get more opportunities because they thought he was capable of something.
Right.
The fact that Shedeur fell to the 5th round means that they did not see what they wanted to see out of him, regardless of what everybody says it was about. If they saw what they wanted to see, they would have drafted him earlier. Teams only care about winning. That's why we're seeing Justin Tucker worked out for clubs, right?
And then Phillip Rivers too, which is another conversation. But go ahead.
So I think he needs to show that he could be the guy, because if they have to draft another quarterback, it makes no sense to keep 2 sophomore quarterbacks on.
Not at all.
Doesn't. From a roster building standpoint, that makes no sense. So I think one of those, Dylan or Shedeur, is gone, or Shedeur is the starter, Dylan is the other guy that's there, and then they bring in a veteran to fill out the room. Like
another Joe Flacco type character.
Maybe. I mean, just somebody to help because they're both young.
Yeah.
So to help them in the room by pointing out certain insights that only a veteran would be able to point out, can help them along in their development, both of them, and then can also step in if needed, if they need somebody who can maybe like raise the floor in certain situations.
Okay.
So I think he's very interesting. This last game, we have a metric at Sumer called Sumer scores that
Okay.
we trained a model. I'm going to reference these a few times, so I'm just going to explain really quickly. We trained a model with years worth of football plays and taught it how to evaluate every play, the relationship between the different players on the field, how one player's movement impacts another player's movement. And through computer vision technology and tracking data, that kind of stuff, we can evaluate a whole host of different things at a play, game, and season-long level. So we are essentially like grading every component, and we can grade traits, performances, and then also just like the umbrella of play. So his week 14 was his highest grade of the season so far. And I want to, for Shedeur. I mean, his first two were obviously not great. So
right.
He had a 3 and a 4. We graded on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is like historically good. 9 is all pro. 8 is Pro Bowl level. And the 7 is like an impact starter, and it goes down from there. 3 and 4 are like, this is detrimental to what's happening on the team, right? So he was a 3 and a 4 for those 2 games, but this one was a 6, and that's a starter level grade. So we're moving in an upwards trajectory, and I'm really curious to see if he can continue that and build on that. Like I said, I don't even care about the 3 and the 4 for the same reasons as with Cam, right? Like, you just need to show that you can learn from the last play, get better, continue to get better, and show that there is potential. And so right now the arrow's pointing up. Will it continue to point up the rest of the season? But also keep in mind, he's in a bad offense. That's why everything has been bad there.
An awful offense. And to your point about the trajectory, which way it's trending, I'm looking at his passing yards prop for this weekend's game at Chicago. And right now, the over-under for his passing yards is 190. And I'm actually going to go, from a betting perspective, I'm going to go Shedeur Sanders over 190 passing yards this weekend at Chicago. Am I crazy?
Over 190. Okay, wait, hold on. I just want to look really quick.
And I also see it at 192.
190. Okay, just for like recent context, I just wanted to see what Love did. So Love was at 234.
Shedeur could give us 193 passing yards.
I mean, after giving you 364 against the Titans, I think he could get 190.
I think so too. And I'm gonna throw a couple of more fade or fanning out over just to get your insight. Just real quick, are we fading or are we fanning out over Rodgers, Tomlin, and Steelers? And I would like to say that Tomlin, from a betting perspective, thrives as an underdog. And it's not often that he's an underdog, but now that the Steelers don't look like the Steelers of yesteryear, there are more instances of that than not. And so when I see Tomlin as an underdog, I'm like, oh, this is a great place to back him from a betting perspective. But from a real world football perspective and or from a fantasy football perspective, how you feeling about Rodgers and the Steelers as a whole?
I don't think Rodgers is Rodgers anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think he has been for years. I don't think it's new. I think we started to see the decline his last year in Green Bay.
I absolutely agree.
I think we saw it in New York last year. And I think we have seen it this season also. Mm-hmm. And so on the season long level, we have him graded on the same tier as Spencer Rattler.
Damn.
Tyler Shuck.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Girl.
Yeah.
He's hope he's not listening to this. I don't want to end up on his next press conference.
Thank God those have kind of minimized this year, right?
Yeah, well.
We've heard a lot less of that, which I actually think is a massive win for Pittsburgh, because that was one of the things last year that I was like, just stop.
Yeah, just be quiet, please.
So I think what we're seeing, one of the things that historically we see with especially these elite quarterbacks who are allowed to get to the age where this becomes relevant, when they start like going off the cliff.
Mhm.
What we see historically, we've seen there's a pattern. I did a whole research thing about this, is that their average depth of target crashes. And I think that
That's
that's
the
related to
indicator.
arm strength. And it doesn't always crash, but it either crashes, it's either the average depth of target comes down or the accuracy plummets, which sort of makes sense. So
Yeah,
either make the throws easier, and so I can consistently get it there on time in
like
the
some
way that
easy check downs or
yes,
yeah.
or throw it downfield. I mean, if you're gonna do that consistently, we've seen him do it. You could do it from time to time. You can make your body do anything from time to time, right? But to consistently throw it downfield, I think I think there's a reason we're not seeing him do that anymore. And I just think that that is too limiting to expect a playoff run. So let's say
I
they make it
agree.
into the playoffs, you might be able to knock off a team, but I just don't see you doing
Maybe.
it again and again. And by the way, I think that that for a good defense is something that you can
Yeah.
kind of take away.
Okay, really quickly, Dak, and I'm mentioning Dak. I'm not a Cowboys enthusiast from a
Yep,
fandom perspective, but
got it.
I did wager on Dak to be the comeback player of the year. And between he and Christian McCaffrey, they're
Right.
going back and forth in that spot of favorite or not favorite. So I'm like, I'm pulling for the Cowboys because of that, you know. But thoughts on the Cowboys and Dak Prescott? And
Uh, I'm buying the offense. I'm buying the offense in ways that I did not think I was going to buy the offense. I'll tell you who I was very wrong about this year. One of my biggest misses from a fantasy standpoint was Javonte Williams. Didn't
oh,
didn't like it at all. I was like, what are they doing? Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, like, we're just like, hey, you're average. Come here and be average here on an average team. Like,
on an average
I
team.
didn't think that that was a recipe for success. And as it turns out, well, gosh, we just did we taped our, so Pro Bowl voting is open now. And so
Yes.
we did a podcast that'll come out tomorrow for Sumer Sports, going through our Sumer score. Like, here's who you should vote for according to Sumer score. And he is the 6th best Sumer score,
Yeah.
Javonte Williams, at running back. And Dak has the 2nd best Sumer score at quarterback for the season.
He's having incredible.
And Pickens has the 4th best Sumer score, and CeeDee Lamb's missed a lot of time, and that impacts our scores too. So, I mean, there are a lot of offensive pieces there that have been absolutely outstanding. So I'm buying the offense, and with
Me too.
their schedule moving forward, I mean, Minnesota's defense is tough. But the Chargers, the Commanders, and the Giants, the Commanders and the Giants, they scored 40 plus points against both of those teams when they faced them earlier in the season. So I think that we could probably expect the offensive fireworks to continue for Dallas.
I'm there with you too. Every week I do picks for anytime touchdown scorer, and George Pickens and Ferguson have been money for me in those spots. And of course, I'm
But
biased.
Devontae Adams,
What?
but the odds must be terrible, right? Like,
Wait, say it again.
Devontae Adams, the odds must be terrible
Oh, for him,
like,
yeah,
only
because
touchdowns.
so juice, like yeah. So, but with George, I think that people weren't really recognizing
Yeah.
how impactful he could be once CD was out. And again, as a Georgia alum, like I've been riding with George Pickens for a moment, and I know from college what he can do. And obviously, college doesn't always translate to the NFL, but he's going to get after it regardless. And he has really stepped in. Not that he's not the number one, obviously. CD is still that guy, but George Pickens has really stepped into that role and has been a moneymaker when it comes to anytime touchdown scores from betting perspective. Okay, Lindsay, we're going to skip a little bit of something because I do want to jump into some fun stuff. I want to jump into some fun. Oh, this is fun. Like, we've been talking fun stuff, but I want to talk some more fun stuff. And I know folks are tired of hearing this, but I want to know your thoughts on Travis and Taylor's wedding date. And
I want all of it. I want all the details. I am living in this space.
Well, listen, I don't have all the details except that right now the rumors are that their wedding date is set for Rhode Island or Connecticut, June of next year. But how that relates to our space, do you think that Travis has played his last season rather, as an NFL player? And do you think it has any reason or anything to do with his relationship with Taylor?
I don't think it has anything to do with Taylor.
Okay.
I think he's old. Like,
Damn.
no, but I mean, like,
Get your old ass over there.
He's like a million years. He's a million years younger than me. I can say this. This is football old, right? Like it's a totally different thing.
Sit your old ass down, Travis.
What is he like? 30? Is he 37?
Like I think like 36 or 37. But this is hilarious. But yes, this is yes.
These are ages where you no longer, continue playing if you
Yeah.
are a tight end typically. So I don't think it has anything to do with Taylor. I think there's a strong chance this is his last season. But what's wild, again, going back to that Pro Bowl show that I was telling you about, I don't know what number he is, but he's in our top 6 tight ends.
Okay.
I want to say third. I want to say third in Zoomer score this year. And
even after that awful, who do they play? Texans
this week with all the
Texans, yeah. Isn't that after that awful game?
It probably has to do, honestly. Okay, I am going to pull it up. I said I wasn't going to pull it up, and now here I am. I'm going to pull it up because I want to know. My guess is that this has to do with the volatility of tight ends.
Okay,
tight ends are almost like defenses, right? Like unless you are like a wide receiver 1 style, like Trey McBride.
Mm-hmm.
Is essentially their wide receiver 1. So he's going to get a ton of volume and you can count on him putting up a high point total, but also just like producing. Like he's very, very good and he gets the ball a ton. And a lot of what impacts, I think, our tight end scores too are like blocking scores, which is the aspect of the tight end play that you don't actually, none of us see that.
Well, do we not see that?
We're the best centers in the league. No one knows that. I mean, I know a lot of people actually do, but most people don't, like you just don't, nobody evaluates blocking. People evaluate like pass catching. So
that's interesting because I really do look at, like, I like a tight end who will give me a good block. Like I might not research the data on that, but I'm always looking to see if the tight ends that I follow and like wager on give me that. But okay, this is interesting.
Yeah, I'm guessing that it has to do with volatility as I scan the landscape here because there are a lot of tight ends who have subpar outings. And my guess is actually thinking this through, that might have to do with volume also, right? Like the volume is relatively low for tight ends compared to a lot of other people. So one bad play can really impact your score kind of dramatically. If you're getting the ball, like from a receiving standpoint, let's say you're going to get, X number of targets and one of those is botched, like that would kind of impact
that impacts your score
because it's a small sample to a degree. Travis's is not a small sample, but what we have seen is that he is consistently giving them like professional level tight end play. And the way that it dips out, there are 3 down games that I'm seeing here, but that's also a consistent thing across the board. Like a lot of people in the league that you would be surprised will have like a 5 game here or there by our metrics. And so he has a few of those, but then the games that are like 8s and 9s kind of outweigh that. And I'm not sure that there are that many tight ends that have the capability to get to a 9 game, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's probably what's skewing those scores.
Okay. Completely non-football.
My point, sorry, is that I don't think he's playing as poorly as people think he's playing this season, but I do think it's not the same Travis that we've seen in the past. And once you start to see that slowdown, you don't want to let the wheels come off.
You don't. And it's so hard to like not remember what you've done for me lately, because you're saying that he hasn't been as poor this season as the media or the talking heads might want you to believe. But all I can remember is that awful, what was it, Monday night, Sunday night game? Like I cannot get that out of my head. Like that for me now is a core memory. And it wasn't just on him, but
all of their wide receivers.
Girl,
that's an off-season story we need to talk about, because Lamar, Josh, Patrick, none of them have like really, really like we just talked about Dak's 2 wide receivers.
Yeah.
You got a wide receiver 1 and 2. Joe Burrow has a wide receiver 1 and he has 2 wide receiver 1, both of them. These guys, they're like, they'll be fine because they're with Patrick.
They won't. They won't. Yeah. Can you believe we're getting ready to face a potentially playoff season without the Chiefs or maybe the Ravens? Girl. Okay.
I know.
Okay.
I can't wrap my brain around that yet.
On a more cheerful note, what are the top 3 songs on your Christmas or your holiday playlist?
Ooh, holiday playlist. Okay, so the one that I know that is one is Christmas Tree Farm by Taylor Swift. And
Okay.
I didn't even mean that as a segue. My daughter is obsessed with Taylor Swift. And so the two of us, I was never a massive Swiftie, and then I kind of became one because my daughter liked her so much. My daughter's 8. We went to the Eras tour, and that was so then we listened to her wall to wall in the weeks leading up to that.
Yes.
And then that became our memory, I think. So I have that association of going to the Eras tour with my daughter, and that's a thing that we did. So that's kind of our thing.
Yes.
And she does this thing when we're in the car, not only to Taylor Swift, but specifically to Taylor Swift, where she rolls down the window, and it's like she's in a music video and she sings out the window. And I die. It's so funny because she's not yet reached an age where she's self-conscious. She's I'm putting on a show. I'm feeling it. Here's how I would do this music video. And I'm just the people in the cars next to us are what's going on? And laughing. And I'm just this is so it's something that makes me happy because I get to see her be so free and uninhibited when she's singing along to Taylor specifically. And so Christmas Tree Farm is at the top of our playlist.
Okay, I'll check that one out. I don't know that song, but I will check it out.
I mean, it's it's a probably specific to me.
But
I also am in terms of the traditional Christmas carols. Oh Holy Night makes me cry.
Oh, I love Oh Holy Night.
Why?
Okay.
I don't know, but it does. If you hit me in the right moment and it's the right version of it, I could shed a tear.
Okay. One more on the top of your holiday playlist. What you listening to?
The ones that you like. What are you? I don't know.
I like Oh Santa by Mariah, Ariana Grande, and Jennifer Hudson. I love The Temptations, Silent Night. Do you know that version of Silent Night by The Temptations? I'll send it to you, honey. It's a staple. It's a staple in all Black families. So, I'm gonna send you this, and then you're gonna be invited to the cookout once you fall in love with it.
I love it.
And then anything pentatonics or pentatonics.
Oh, pentatonics. I've never been a big I don't know why I'm not into that, but I'm not into that. There's something about harmonizing that doesn't hit it for me. My kids and I record the voice, and then when we have downtime, at dinner, and we're just looking for something that everyone you could put on, you're not even thinking about it, maybe making dinner, I'll put the voice on, and they always have a duo or this season they've had a trio, and I'm pfft. And they're brilliantly talented.
Right, all right.
For whatever reason, to me, it just doesn't. There's something about blending of voices that just feels kind of I mean, clearly very, very skilled.
It's not your thing.
It feels a little bit more amateurish to me than something that is produced with music. I don't know. That's so judgmental. I didn't mean it to sound like that.
It's okay.
It just
this is Front Porch Fantasy. This is a safe space where we judge any and all things. Betting, fantasy, pop culture, entertainment, whatever. This is where we judge. Okay. Before I let you go, you have to give us everywhere we should follow you, not just you, but also Sumer Sports. So give us all the handles. And then finally, tell us one fantasy football habit that you're leaving behind in 2025.
Oh, gosh.
And one thing that you're looking forward to in 2026.
Okay. Okay, real quick, I'm going to do before I forget it.
Okay.
The habit that I'm leaving behind is drafting all the same players. So I get into it because I don't do game theory for the most part. I do deeply held beliefs. I think this guy's going to be good, right?
Same.
So if Bucky falls to the end of the second, I'm every single time I go Bucky Irving. And then when Bucky Irving gets hurt, then I'm screwed.
Yeah.
But and I know this strategically that I need to get different. And once I start scooping up a couple, I need to go in a different direction. But what always happens is I go, but I like this guy so much better than these other 4 guys. But then what that doesn't take into consideration is that I might be wrong about some of those guys. And then I have no exposure to them.
Right.
So I'm going to tell myself that I'm going to do this differently this year. And then I'm going to cross my fingers that I will listen to myself this year. And that is just differentiation across the leagues. Be a little bit more open-minded to people you don't think are going to be good, actually potentially being good. And then, so for social media, so I'm Lindsay_Rhodes on Twitter.
You had to look it up, honey.
Well, I know. And
okay.
then, so I wasn't able to get that on Insta. So I have Lindsay Rhodes NFL on Insta. And so I hate that they're different because then I have to go, which one is which and what am I saying now? And then please go follow us at Sumer Sports. It's at Sumer Sports, SUMER Sports. And that will have links to all of the data and all of the podcasts and all of the stuff that we're building out that I think you'll find is interesting. And then also want to plug the website, sumersports.com. If you go up to the top, there's a spot that says data, and you can click on that. And then you can go filter. There's a lot of cool filters like personnel settings and stuff like that. So if you are looking to find an edge in various betting or fantasy leagues or platforms that you're on, then there's some deep data that you can find there that measures, I think, like more efficiency type stuff so that you can kind of get an idea. And then we also have an AI tool, and then I'm going to stop talking, called Swimmer Brain, where you can plug in. We've trained it, and I know AI is AI and people have feelings about AI, but we've trained it specifically, like it's a mix of AI and coding, where we have trained it to answer specific football related questions with the types of metrics that we think should fuel those answers. And so you can go ask like about Colby Parkinson and how he is on third down in the red zone. Like that kind of stuff. And it can layer those sorts of,
I like that,
filters on top of one another and then spit out an answer. Another one that I like from a fantasy standpoint is who has outplayed their projections the most in the last 4 weeks, that kind of stuff. So they can help you find people that are being undervalued by the projection models.
And then that would help me with my picks, my betting picks.
Absolutely. Actually, it would.
This is what matters. And this is the real important stuff in life, guys. Yeah. Lindsay, thank you for sitting on my porch today. This was great. Like we got to do parts 2 and 3 and 4 and 10 in the new year, because
anytime, girl.
You're a wealth of information. Follow Lindsay at Twitter and on Instagram. And the different handles, or as the kids say, the different handles. You know what that is, right?
That happens in my house. Oh yeah.
Don't even get me started. Follow me at Erica Renee D, Twitter and Instagram. Follow Fantasy Sports Advice Network wherever you are on social. And until next time, guys, thank you all for sitting on the porch with me and Lindsay today. See ya.